Hi, my name is Lily Rodriguez, and this is my educational autobiography up until this point. So, starting in elementary school, I went to K-Pac Elementary School. These are some pictures of me from this time period. So, grades K through 4. During this time, I always felt pretty excited to go to school. School was like pretty fun during this time. I was a decent student. I always got my work in on time. I didn't really struggle with any subjects during this time either, but I particularly liked recess during this time. We had 3 recesses, and it was fun getting to play with friends, going on field trips, and going to the library. During certain classes, reading was like a hobby I had at this time. However, when I look back on this time period and reflect, I realized that a lot of the time I felt nervous going to school because I felt like a lot of my teachers were always in a bad mood, and that definitely had an effect on how I felt about going to school sometimes. But I have 2 teachers that really stood out to me during this time period, which was Miss Grace, who was my 2nd grade English language arts teacher, and Miss Buzzle, who was my 3rd grade homeroom teacher. So next up is middle school. I went to K-Pac Middle School, and these are some pictures of me from this time period. I was in middle school from 5th to 8th grade, and during this time, going to school felt pretty fun. It didn't feel super serious yet like it does in high school. I like seeing my friends every day. I liked my classes. I liked my teachers a lot. And during this time, I was a good student, in my opinion. I never really had late work in order to participate in reward activities that my school would put on. And during this time, in particular, I really liked my extracurricular classes like gym, art, and choir. However, during this time, I realized I was not a fan of science. I had to take physics and I think earth science, and I realized those were not for me. And during this time, I started getting involved with more school activities. I was on student council. I also started doing school-sponsored sports like cross country and track. Teachers that stood out to me during this time was Mr. Gross, who was my gym teacher, Miss Feckle, who was my choir teacher, and Miss Sokaz, who was a social studies teacher, as well as my student council advisor. So next up is high school. I went to K-Pac High School, and these are some pictures of me participating in graduation activities. So high school for me was grades 9 through 12, and at this time I was still a pretty good student. I was on top of my work. I had a good GPA, and I was in my school's top 10. However, I didn't take school seriously at all. I never did homework ahead of time. I never studied for tests, and this kind of led to me being shocked when I got to college. During this time, I also realized I did not like math at all, so that ruled out any kind of STEM-related career for me in the future. Something that really stood out to me, though, when I reflected on my time in high school was that I had a really close relationship with a lot of the teachers and staff at my school. They were more like mentors to me rather than teachers. I was more focused on this time during sports rather than schoolwork or my education because I really wanted to have a scholarship to run cross country and track in college. However, I was involved in things that other than sports. I was involved with FFA, yearbook, and student council at this time as well. And the teachers that stood out to me from this time period was Mr. Sampson, who was my high school English teacher for all 4 years, Miss Ebner, who was a math teacher, and Miss Ozentowski, who was my FFA advisor, as well as my agri-sciences teacher. And something I forgot to put in the slides here was I was actually a COVID senior, so my high school career kind of ended like that March of 2020. So, after graduating high school, I made the decision to attend community college before going off to university. I went to St. Clair County Community College in Port Huron, Michigan, also known as SC4. And I was here for my freshman and sophomore years, plus a little more after sophomore year. So, as I mentioned earlier, I graduated high school amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. So, my entire first year of college was online due to COVID. And I also mentioned earlier that I didn't take high school seriously at all. I didn't really study. I didn't do my work, and put a lot of effort into it. So when it came to college, I really struggled to adjust to the heavier course load and more homework, as well as teaching myself due to being in online classes. I went to SE4 primarily to continue my athletic career while also trying to figure out what career I wanted to go into, because during this time, I really had no idea. But something I realized during this time was that I really enjoyed my English classes and learning about the subject and literature itself. Something that I think had a really big influence on me wanting to go into teaching, though, was that I coached middle and high school track during this time, and this really led to me coming to the realization that I wanted to work with kids who were of middle or high school age. Something else that I did during this time was I worked in my college athletic department, which is why you saw me in the mascot costume in the previous slide. I graduated from SE4 and then took the spring semester off because I really wanted to figure out what I want to do with my life and save money before I went on to a university. So why did I choose Central Michigan University? The first thing that really influenced me to choose Central was that I had family members who went here previously. My mom went here, and so did my uncle and one of my cousins, and they've always talked really positively about their experience going here. Another reason was that it was far enough from home for me to gain independence, but close enough for me to visit for the weekend. It's only around a 2 hour drive, so not too bad at all. I had visited Central Michigan and Mount Pleasant in general several times before I decided to commit to Central Michigan University. I really liked campus and the overall vibe of Mount Pleasant, and that definitely influenced me to choose Central Michigan as well. Another thing that influenced me to choose Central Michigan was the education program. I've always heard people praise how good Central Michigan's education program is, and many of my family members who were helping me decide on going into education and teaching as well said that Central Michigan's was very good. So where am I going from here? I will graduate in 2 to 3 years, hoping to be more towards the 2 mark, but we'll see. Hopefully with a 3.0 GPA or above. I really pride myself on having a good GPA thus far in my academic career. Like most other people in this class, I will be student teaching. I'm not sure exactly what area I want to student teach in yet, but hopefully more towards my hometown. I would really like to be a high school English teacher, and something I also definitely want to do while I'm a teacher is I would like to coach cross country or track wherever I teach. I think I'm probably going to get a master's degree at some point. I definitely am not going to do that right after I get my bachelor's, but that's something I definitely would like to do. And I would like to live and teach within 2 hours of where I grew up. Here are the lessons I learned while reflecting on my educational experience. I have run out of time, so thank you for watching.